Hello and welcome to the last movie buffs of 2023. Oh, snap. Movie Buffs, of course, is a show that covers the best movies of all time. I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
And I'm Cisco from Misfit Minded Media Reviews. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Misfit_Minded, on Twitter at Rampage_Misfit, and my website at misfitminded.com.
And for our last show, we got to go out with a bang. So we are going to talk about one of our favorite filmmakers and one of his most notable films. We're talking, of course, about Brian DePalma's 1983 film Scarface.
Yeah.
Written by Oliver Stone, yes, and starring Al Pacino and Michelle Pfeiffer. If you haven't seen it, that's insane. I think every single person in the world has seen this
Right.
movie. It's also on Netflix, so there's really no excuse. But it is the story of a young, determined Cuban immigrant who arrives in Miami with big dreams and even bigger balls. And it's about his rise and fall as the hyperviolent leader of a drug cartel. It's God, such. You go first. You go first.
Yeah, it's like one of the biggest movies I think we've done for sure, in terms of like reputation. I've loved it forever, like since I first saw it. Just such a cliche as a guy, but I do kind of want to get into that, like how, the legacy of the movie kind of like makes you forget about all the good stuff that's actually in here and like
Yes.
meaningful stuff. Just like in, like Fight Club is like another example, also another one of my favorites where it's just like, a segment of the fans kind of ruin it for everybody else, and it's just like everyone gets lumped in with like macho dudes, and it's just like no, there's actually like if you listen, like I think I told you that I listened to the Fight Club commentary, and it's just basically
Yes.
Brad Pitt and Edward Norton and David Fincher just laughing at all of the masculinity in it. So it's just like, so I imagine, De Palma and Al Pacino and everybody else are kind of in on this story too, because like you said, it reads on paper like a very simple um tragedy, that you witness like the rise and fall of this immigrant who comes to this country, this Cuban
Mhm.
immigrant, and becomes what he thinks is like the pinnacle of success, like what he imagines, and then quickly realizes it. As one of my favorite scenes is the dinner scene, when Tony is drunk with Elvira. That's the last
Yeah.
thing, and basically she just sums it up the best. Just like we're a bunch of losers,
Yep.
and it's
Mhm.
it's true. It's like just because you have a nice car and clothes and more money than everybody else, what are you doing
Doesn't mean
to
you're happy.
contribute to society or to yourself? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
um,
The more successful he is, the more unhappy he becomes, and it
yeah,
is a really interesting way to tell it because it, like, reminds me of how in The Wolf of Wall Street, people were like, "Hey, it's
I was thinking of that
glorifying,"
too. I
but
was thinking of that too.
this
Yeah.
movie's such a good reminder of the whole point is to glorify it because that's the trap these people fall into as well. And you're right, that scene is so good when I feel like she recognizes I've just been like walking through doing nothing for a while. I gotta get the hell out of here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like we can kind of talk about her because I saw you put her in the questions and plot holes. So I think it's interesting. I think just like everybody in this movie, Michelle Pfeiffer brings a lot to like this role that could have been like absolutely nothing. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like on the page, because there's a lot of complexity there where it's very easy for us to like sit there and be like she doesn't have any agency. She's just like going from like one kingpin to the next or whatever, like whoever's
Mhm.
in power. But I think that's like short selling it a lot. Like, I think like when Tony is still like trying to talk to her at first and she's just like, who the fuck are you? I don't fuck around with the help. Like,
Yep.
and just like all his advances, she's just like rebuffing it. And like, I do think there, is you kind of see some attraction there where it's not just like Tony being like, hey, bitch, get over here. Like, she's like, no, I don't want to, like, she doesn't. And then slowly she's kind of like Tony convinces her and kind of makes her see like Frank is like he's out, he's the old, I'm the new guy.
Yep.
This is the old guy, and like you're gonna want to, if you want to maintain this lifestyle, you're gonna have to be with whoever's on top at the moment. So like I think she's smart. I think
Yeah.
she's like a lot smarter than like what a lot of people give her credit for in that way.
Mhm.
And I think just the way that De Palma loves his ladies, and I just love the way that he shoots her in this thing. Like the first
Yes.
shot where she comes down the elevator and you don't see her face, like it's just the silhouette of her body in that gorgeous,
Green dress.
green dress,
So
and it's
beautiful.
and you see Tony, and it cuts to Tony, and his mouth is just like on the floor, basically,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's like, I mean, can you blame him? I mean,
Well,
it's Michelle Pfeiffer, so
it's
yeah.
true, and it's such a powerful moment because when he says later, I've been in love with you since I've ever since the first
The
time I saw
moment I
you."
saw you,
The
yeah,
filmmaking is so tight that I can remember the image too. That's how clean it was,
because
and
it's all Tony's POV, yeah.
yes, yes. I think that's what's kind of amazing about this story too, is that even Tony's POV is a valuable one because I feel like understanding that these men don't, they too learn this lesson. They learn mostly with their life at the end, but he does see that his life has fallen apart right before it's over, which is really nice. He accepts that his life has fallen apart and is like, I'm going to go out because I don't want to if I can't have what I want and now I have no one, I'm out of here. But there's
Well, yeah, like, that's interesting too because, like, I think they do a good job of, they mention, like, just how much drugs and, like, alcohol that they're consuming at that point, like, it's just overconsumption and, like,
yes,
excess. Everything is excess, like,
there's
too
like
much
so many
money, too
piles.
much, yeah, and
Yes.
and so you kind of get the feeling that, like, he's very
It's
short-tempered at the beginning of the movie, but, like, by the end, it's almost like that's, like, making it worse, you know
it's
what I
too
mean?
much
And
for
so
him now.
and like that, another moment I really like that's like emotional is like when he is at the compound, like his compound after he kills Manny, and he sort of like realizes like
What did I
man,
do?
yeah, like what I do, like it's like again, like sometimes he just turns red, and that's like another, De Palma does a nice job of like they do that extreme close up, like
Yes.
slow mo, and the music
The
like cuts in,
music.
where it's like.
Oh.
And you're just like, "Oh shit, Tony's about to like either kill somebody or beat somebody up." Or
Mhm. He's gonna snap. He's gonna snap. Yes.
so that's, yeah, just like another layer to it where it's like, again, this gets simplified to like, "Oh, gangster movie, guns out, blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Well, there's a lot more to it, than and Scorsese, like you brought up with Wall Street, like that's another, I feel like in the last couple years in particular, if you watch his movies, I feel like he's like very consciously trying to make an effort to go against those criticisms. Cause like
Mhm.
if you watch Killers of the Flower Moon and that's your takeaway, like you did not watch the movie at all. Like or The
Exactly.
Irishman, like basically The Irishman, and De Niro like gets away, with the life, but then what is he left with? He's this old fuck in a wheelchair in this
Yes.
retirement home by himself. And it's just like, God, this is so sad.
It's true. It's sort of
Like that's
like
what Tony would have been like. I feel like if he had survived that long, like, that would have been Tony, basically,
right.
but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tragedy of this too, is that these people they come from something so extreme in terms of like what they don't have that they can't help but live to an extreme that is untangible, sustainable. And there is something about how like Tony's always just trying to feel like he's finally made good in some way, and he just can never figure out what it is. His charisma is so interesting too,
Yeah.
and Pacino sort of building this character, being an Italian guy, I'm pretty sure.
I guess if that's the question in Plot Hole, like, this is a perfect movie for me, that's probably the one icky, like,
I'm kind
probably
of
doesn't
okay
hold
with
up
it.
nowadays. I know, it he's so good, it's like he got
I
away with it.
I
It's like he gets
also
away with it.
I had to find, like, a Scarface making of, on Dailymotion. There's, like, something that must have been produced in probably, like, 2002. It looks really old, but it's
Yeah.
about, how Pacino wanted certain folks on the set who spoke Spanish to speak exclusively Spanish to him.
Yeah, because
He
I
would
think
always like stop
Manny is
and
actually Cuban, I think,
yes,
right?
Manny's
I think, yeah.
legit. And he
Yeah.
was like, anytime you guys think I sound like a total hack or whatever, just stop me and tell me how to pronounce it correctly. So it's sort of like that is Hollywood at its best, being like, you cannot play this character, but you could tell me how to, and I will listen.
It's really funny too because, like, when I was a kid, I was on a this is so random, but it's like, I
Let's hear
promise
it.
it's kinda connect. Me and my cousin were on the soccer team, and we had our coach was Mexican, and, like, legit is a spitting image of Al Pacino in this movie,
Yeah,
and talked exactly like him in this movie. Like
epic, epic. I mean,
like,
so many people talk exactly
oh
like him because of this.
it's hard to yeah, it's hard like, he did a good job, like, with what he's given, and, like, yeah, it's just, like, every scene has, like it's so hard to talk about because there's, like every scene has a great moment or an iconic line reading, or it's just, like, just packed to the gills, and
Yeah, nothing wasted again, right? Oliver Stone did all this research. He really wanted to tell this story and give this reimagined story like new grounded legs because this is like technically a remake of like a legit gangster film from the 30s or something.
yeah,
That's
I've
like
seen
a,
it.
different. Okay, I was going to say it is obviously not the same story, but it's so amazing how he could take something like that and then reinvent it. And Oliver Stone's so surprising to me because I feel like he can be really hit or miss, but I just am so shocked and really impressed every time I remember that he wrote Scarface. It just seems like one of those movies that's like so much more grounded than what he would write elsewhere.
Yeah, it's like, I like like, obviously not as much as this remake, but I do like the original too. I remember, like, it's very much, like, more, prohibition is
Yeah.
the crime in it, and,
Yep.
like, guys in pinstripe suits and shit like that. Uh, but
DePalma's gonna
it's
do one of those movies after this, so no worries.
right. But it is good. It is good, and, I think they do a good job. Oliver Stone does a good job of, like, adapting just that basic, like, guy that goes too far,
Yeah, he wants
American
so
dream.
much, has no
Yeah,
idea what to do, but to just get what he's such a steamroller in the craziest way. Like, rewatching this, I was just like, I can't believe the balls on this guy. I really
yeah,
can't believe the balls on this guy sometimes.
yeah.
And Pacino somehow wears those things like he
All
was
you
born
got in
with
this
them.
world, your balls and your word.
Exactly. And he doesn't break them for nobody. Oh man.
Uh I think
He's
that's a Howard Hawks movie too, because I think, at the end where it says, like, "Dedicated to Howard Hawks," I'm pretty
yes,
sure that's why, I caught that this time, but,
so cool.
what I wanna say? Oh, I for the De Palma piece of it, I did wanna talk about this too because I've been thinking about this a lot, just, me and you and me both, we love De Palma, and there's kind of but, there is kinda this thing where there's kind of a split. You're either like a fan more of the movies that he writes and is like more in charge of, and then the movies that he comes in to direct. And I will
Mm.
say, I think the ones that he writes are like interesting, like to talk about, and they're like usually always like directed really well, but I really prefer the ones where he comes in and someone else writes it. I think I do
Ooh.
because, I mean, all my like, if I'm naming off my favorites, like Carrie, Stephen King, obviously wrote that original one.
Yep,
Scarface, Oliver Stone, The Untouchables, I think David Mamet wrote that,
baller.
and Mission Impossible, I wanna say someone else wrote that too. So it's like all of those, like, are like to me, like, his bangers, but, like, and again, there's some other ones too, but that he did, but I just feel like sometimes he gets lost in, like, trying to be too Hitchcock and, like,
Mm. Yeah, he gets lost
sometimes
in his, like, own head, I feel like,
yes,
which I'm
or he's
I guess I am really about.
yeah.
Because
Like I said, I still like it. It's just, like, an interesting, like, when you compare the 2.
yes,
They're 2 different tones, but, like, as I'm, like, filling in all my blind spots of De Palma, it's like once you've seen one of his that he's in charge of,
you know it.
you have unlocked the key to all of the other ones because, like, they're all gonna have killers dressed up as women and murder and some insane plot twist that like doesn't really make any sense, but like
Correct.
yeah. So
Yes.
you know when you're watching like one of his compared to this, but I mean again I still like both of them. I just thought I want to point that out because it is a really and I just watched Raising Cain again, which is one that De Palma. Have you ever seen that one?
I'm not sure. I think I'm getting it confused with a different movie. When you said it, I saw something that I don't think is the De Palma one.
It's truly batshit De Palma.
Amazing.
John Lithgow plays a murderer
Okay,
with
so I have seen it then.
split personalities. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have fucking seen it.
Yeah.
I did watch
And,
it on HBO Max, and I was like, "What the hell is it?"
it is like a hat on a hat of, like, De Palma doing De Palma, old De Palma, which is
Yes,
already De Palma doing Hitchcock. Like, it's so fucking crazy.
it really is, and Lithgow's
And
so wild in it too.
Manny is in it from, Scarface. That's why I wanted to bring it up
Nice.
'cause, a lot of, Brian De Palma uses a lot of the same actors. Also, I just watched, Body Double.
Mhm.
And, Hector in Scarface is in Body Double. He's like a porn director in that.
Yes.
And in Scarface, obviously, he has like the first really graphic chainsaw scene drug deal where he's the Colombian,
Hmm.
coming in and oh
So
god, there's
friggin'
so
scary.
yeah. I
Yes.
will say though, like that scene in part, and Oliver Stone has talked about this, like how the chainsaw scene was like a huge like
Yeah.
MPAA was all over it,
Yep.
and, like, that was, like, cited as, like, the violence in society, and, like, you look at it now, and they don't even, like, show anything.
They don't. They don't.
It cuts to Tony's it's, like, shows Tony's face, and there's some blood that splatters on him, and that's it. And
And
it's, like,
to your
again, one
point
of those
about
things where our mind or just the, outrage is, like, more than what's actually in the movie.
well, in the
It's
movie
crazy.
too, because I feel like to your point about Hitchcock, that's part of why I love what De Palma does when he does bring something to a story he hasn't necessarily written. He uses people's bodies to cut something off so you don't realize that you haven't seen something because you saw something, you just didn't see what you thought you saw. And I kind of
Yeah.
love that that's always what he is trying to remind you of. And I think why I love him so much is because I love that he can make his very weird movies and then make a beautiful movie that wasn't his own. He can also
Like a one for them,
serve
one for me kinda
yeah,
thing, like, yeah, yeah.
somehow is able to serve a story and, like, bring his art to lift a story, and I feel like a lot of auteurs either struggle with that or just, like, straight up don't do it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I don't know, his career is so interesting, but
Love him so much.
I was also thinking about just, like, the influence and the legacy of this movie, like,
It's
you
wild.
know, rappers just, like, take like, hip hop in general, just taking this story and just, like, running with it, like, there's, like,
So many
influ
lyrics.
influences, lyrics, names, like, just
I feel like
everything.
Cribs back in the day, every single rapper's house you went to was like, "Got the
Yes.
Scarface, limited
Yep.
edition DVD right here."
I forgot, like, whose house it was. It might have even been, like, a spoof. I'm like I might be mixing it up, but it was, like, somebody's bathroom, and they had, like, the TV on the wall or something, and he was like, "Got Scarface 24/7." It's just like,
Yes.
God.
I feel like
That
that's
was a
real though.
thing. That was a thing, and, like, Grand Theft Auto, which was, like, coming out when I was a kid, was, like, directly influenced by Scarface,
Yes.
like, just going up to the street and killing somebody like he does with Hector.
Not scared. Not
Uh,
scared.
and, it's like we've come full circle now because Netflix just put out, like, 3 of the original Grand Theft Autos, and you can play on your phone,
Wow. That's wild.
uh, from Netflix, and I'm just like, I never thought, like, in my wildest dreams
Mm-mm.
that I would be able to play this shit on my phone. Like
But here we
and, like
are.
oh god, it's so good.
Uh, it's true, so many lines, everybody knows the lines, everybody knows the story of it, they all know about Tony Montana, and it's just such an amazing it's amazing that it can be that prevalent, and that Pacino has 2 of those. That he is he's got The Godfather on his back, and then he's like, "I'm gonna tell a similar story, but not." and I'm also gonna be equally as iconic, which kind of
Two
blows
of
my mind.
the two of the best gangster movies ever made. Al
Yes,
Pacino's in the center of it, and like playing opposite because like in Godfather, it's like we don't do deal with drugs or whatever. Like
right.
that's against the code. And in Scarface, it's like completely the opposite. It's
Yes.
like, asking Michelle Pfeiffer, like, can I get some? Like
Oh my god.
when they're in the car.
What a good scene, yes.
God. Yeah, I mean, it's just I can talk about every scene in this movie. Like, even the like you put on here too. I don't want to like keep stealing your stuff that you wrote, but like it's true. Like you said that you didn't want it to end. Like it just every scene feels like necessary, and I
Yes.
completely agree
Yep.
because like even like unnecessary scenes that you don't need, where it's just like him and Manny hanging out by the beach, like trying to pick up girls. I
Yes.
fucking love that scene. It's
Yes.
so funny,
Exactly,
you
you,
know.
like
Where,
yeah, you do need it. You need to be reminded that
yeah,
these are also just, like, young men.
bros.
These are just
Yeah,
young men in a city,
don't know
excited.
anything. Who don't know
Exactly.
anything. They're just
Yes.
so dumb. Like when Tony asked the girl if he wants to get ice cream with him.
Yeah, girls like ice cream. They like ice cream.
And
Oh,
then
man.
Maddie's like thinks he's hot shit, but every time we see him, like he's always fumbling girls too. Like it's just
Yes,
like they are
he is
not.
next level fondling women across this
Yes,
movie.
yeah. It's pretty crazy. Very 80s.
Very 80s, yes, super in line. I mean, that is one of the pieces of this that's always frustrating is that it's not untrue to life, but women in these stories are it's hard to portray them any other way than the way they kind of fit into these dynamics. And like with Gina, his sister, just like not being allowed to have any autonomy because Tony's decided she is the only thing pure about him, I think. And that's like frustrating because then, of course, Gina's just trying to have a little fun. She wants to do some coke in the bathroom too, right? Everybody else is. And it is a bummer that she sort of reminds us, oh yeah, the women that these men love, they don't really get the kind of protection that maybe you would think, or certainly that the men believe they want to offer. Right. He's like, I'm protecting you when I
Yeah.
totally give you one across the face to like remind you what's going on here.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, her character too, I agree with you, but, like, I do think because this is Tony's story, like, in his point of view, it kind of makes sense that all the women would be in this way, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
he
and
doesn't know how to, like, see other people as not, like, his possessions in one way or another. Like, even Manny, that's why he could just so
yeah,
easily drop him,
I was just
Everybody
gonna
kinda
say that.
belongs to him. Mm,
Yeah, it's all about control, like, all he has to control every single thing, and, like,
mm.
another scene I really like, though, if we're talking about, like, the women in this movie, I do like the scene where he comes to his mom's house for the first time because, like,
Surprise!
yeah, he, like, drops in, like, thinking he's hot shit, like, basically what he does the entire movie,
Mhm.
and then, like, outside of Elvira saying, like, "We're losers" at the end, like, that was at the beginning, and his mom doesn't say that, but is basic she calls him a bum.
Yeah.
Like, she basically says it in a different way and, like, refuses his money and is basically like,
Mhm.
"Who did you murder? Who did you kill to get that?" And it's just call is she's right,
Yeah.
and then, like, she says, like, "You're an embarrassment to, like this is why people feel the way they do about Cubans or whatever," and I think that's a key line because, like, there was a lot of, like, protests around this
Yes.
movie because of the portrayal of Cuban immigrants, and, like, it's not great, but, like,
But there's something authentic about it.
when I look at that scene though, that's what I'm like, okay, so it's not saying like this is all Cubans are like this. It's saying like this
Exactly.
is one twisted guy who's like because of his life in Cuba and because of like what he thinks is success, this is the way he is, and
Yes.
so and but him and like his sister and his mom are just like working class like women that are just trying to make it by and so I do think like that's another criticism that
Yeah, I
if you're
mean,
watching the movie, it's pretty clear they don't think that, like, all Cubans are like this.
no, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. And they try to help you understand the really strange place that immigrant folks are in when they want to have that human right and they want to feel like they're allowed to have the right to prosper in the United States while at the same time really being looked down on. because I kind of love the scene when he's trying to hit on Michelle Pfeiffer and she's like, I'm
Mhm.
certainly not gonna, be with you. And he's like, whoa, that's not me. And her response is, I didn't know you were so sensitive about your
About your
diplomatic
diplomatic
status.
status.
Which is like, that's an important piece
That
here
whole
too.
scene is so good because it's like, she wants to dance,
The
Frank
way
doesn't.
he's dancing with
Yes!
her too.
I was just gonna say, he has the cigar in his mouth, and he's just, like, awkwardly.
It's so good. Oh my god.
But,
But it's exactly it.
yeah,
He
she
has a
says he came
way.
over on a banana boat, and he said, "Hey, hey, hey,
Yes,
that's not you
and
must got me confused with somebody. I didn't come over on no fucking banana boat."
that's right. That's right. So he's dealing with all kinds of prejudice and just trying to
Yeah.
make himself into something better than all of the misconceptions, the ones she has, the one his mother has, all of it. And the truth is his solutions just fulfill the prejudices that other people have because he doesn't really, know anything else. And we only know a little bit about his past. We don't know how communism like may or may not have truly created
We
had
know that
truly
it
created
fucked him
him.
up because, like, the way anytime it's brought up, he,
Yeah.
like,
He
turns red again, like, like, at the beginning when he's being interrogated, which I again, another your introduction to Tony is, like, iconic,
DePalma, baby. He's
like,
so good.
"How'd you get a scar like that? Eating pussy?"
Yes, and his ability to
Just
just talk back to authority
yeah,
the second he arrived is amazing.
yeah.
It's
And
so
that's
good.
why, to give, like, for people that are confused about, like, why is rappers and things, like, and I would say, like, the Black community and um,
Yeah,
communities like that
breast
cling on to this
communities.
story, and it's like, it's not really a stretch to see why, it's like this immigrant, this minority coming
Mhm.
to this country and basically, like, "You're not gonna talk to me the way that you think you can talk to me. I will talk to you that way
That's
and
right.
see how you like it," And so,
That's
like,
right.
I think that attitude and that swagger and, just like what you're saying though, it's like, with rappers and it's like that's a criticism they face too. It's like you're, glamorizing this lifestyle and blah, 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 and it's like, true, but, like, they don't represent their entire community, like, they're just trying to make it like everybody else, like, so
That's right. They're telling a story, right? I think
yeah,
we have to remember that even musicians are telling a story, whether they're telling a story about their present life or their past or the future life they want to have. It's all a version of storytelling. And I kind of love that about Tony because he has lots of stories to spin, even the moment he comes. And another fantastic line is when he's like, I always tell the truth, even when I'm
when
lying.
I lie.
He's
Dude,
just
every
like,
line in this, like, I was thinking of the beginning again too, where him and Manny are on the bus, and he's like, "What did you say?" And he's like, "I told him what you told me. I'm in sanitation."
he's like, son of it's
Sanitarium, that's what I said. You were in the
That's so
sanitarium.
it's so hard not to wanna do
Every
his
line.
yeah, like,
Every line in
not to
this.
wanna do the voice too, just because it just is so you can, like it feels so alive. There's something
Yeah.
insanely alive about it. And, yeah, he has the awareness that people wanna hear
The lines
something
don't
from
hit the
you.
same if you don't do the voice too,
It's very
like,
true. You
"I
have to
kill a
do it.
communist for fun," like,
Yes, but for a green card, I'm gonna carve him up real
real
nice.
nice.
So good. Just yeah, just something so unique about how he is trying to display that this guy like, everything this guy doesn't wanna be is why he is the way he is. And I feel like he's
Mhm.
pretty clear at like, in his performance of defining that. That's kind of what I love about De Palma too, is his filmmaking doesn't really take a stance, right? Like, even though it's from
Yeah,
Tony's POV, it's not like it takes this stance like, "I'm only in Tony's mind." It's sort of like Tony's mind imagines the whole world is focused on him in more ways than one. And I think the filmmaking tries to show you that like Tony thinks this whole world belongs to him always, a lot of the time. Uh,
yeah.
it is his downfall. Like just
Well, I mean, like, yeah, several iconic more shots that we could talk about. I mean, like, the blimp, "The world is yours." Tony outside smoking a cigarette after he just got shot. And
right?
then no mention of it, like, later, like, I mean, he says, like, like, the world and everything in it, like, that kinda thing, but then, like, we see later the sculpture, "The world is yours" sculpture, and it's like, oh, he's taken that which is just like an ad like for
Mhm.
this on this blimp, and he's taken that and like, oh, he's made that like his entire
His
like life.
mantra.
Yeah, his mantra.
Yep. Yep.
um I do like too that like the more times you watch this, um you pick up on some of the nuances of
Mhm.
like, a lot of the characters. I'm always like, they're not, it's not like you completely hate them like one way or the other. Like I do feel like every single character has like a nugget of truth in it that like, you're obviously Tony's the main character. That's the one like you relate to the most and has like
Mhm.
the most empathy. He doesn't kill the kids, and he wants to start a family and get married and have like a traditional
Experience.
family with her and stuff like that. But like, you know, um, Sosa tells him like, don't fuck me. Like, I'll tell you this one time, don't fuck
Yes.
me. He did warn him not to do that.
I mean, he did not understand how serious he was fucking them with the
Yeah,
UN stuff. I feel like that's also part of him getting too old, right? Like in the end, there, it's almost like he too is now soft, not because it's
yeah.
like right to just take out a family, but because he thinks he can just get away with anything now.
Well, even like Frank, like I love how Robert Loggia like plays Frank as just like this like really like flamboyant and like friendly gangster like
Yeah,
guy that's like just happens to be this drug kingpin
yeah,
like.
he's had a good time with his money,
Yes.
and his drugs.
But even, like, him, like, when, they take out Omar and, like, Tony starts to, like, you know, um,
Yep, yep, move
be
up on
more
him.
forward in the
Mhm.
business, and thinking like, "Oh, the Sosa guy, like, yeah, this is my ticket out." Frank's like, "You just took it on his word that Omar was a rat? Like, we never know for sure."
Mhm.
Like, you go with it because, again, Tony's the main character, but, like, you watch it again, you're like, "Oh, yeah." Like, there was no confirmation that Omar was a rat. It was
That
just like, Sosa just took him out because who knows why? Like, he didn't like him? I don't know.
exactly,
He
exactly.
thought he could get farther with Tony? Like, it's just
Well,
everyone.
that's the interesting
Yeah,
thing about Sosa is that, like, I think Tony never really knows what he's in for, or who he's dealing with, because he doesn't really see the other people as anything. He's like, "I'm the best here, so I'm not paying attention." And what's
yeah.
wild
I
about
never like
Sosa.
him. I never liked that guy.
Yeah, never trust him, okay?
Yeah. Unflinching. Just
Yes.
saw a guy get hanged by a helicopter and just,
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah,
I
that guy
never liked him.
deserves it." Like, for all I know, he is the reason my homie is killed, so
Yeah, exactly.
I'm down. But I do feel like what with Sosa, I think is when he realizes, "Oh, I used to think of Frank as the big fish, and now I'm, like, down here in
This is
another
the big,
country, and I
yeah.
see, like, a real big fish." And I do feel like Tony underestimates how powerful Sosa is, because like, that meeting they bring him to with all the, like, diplomats and shit, I feel
Oh,
like
I love
that's
the
when
way
he's like,
that,
"Whoa, I didn't even think
yeah.
appropriately globally here."
Yeah, I love, and I think doesn't Frank tell them that too, though? He's like, "The guys who make it are the ones that stay low, not the ones who want
That's
the
right.
chicas and the cars and the
Yep.
clothes."
Gotta stay
And
loyal.
yeah, and so but Tony is only thinking about how to get more, like, and
Be the
that's cap
best, be the top.
that's capitalism, even Elvira says that, "Capitalism, baby."
That's right. That's
Uh,
right. Yeah, she really does
so
find a way to be more than just, a beautiful woman in amazing clothes.
I love her
Her
character, like,
dialogue is so sharply pointed. It's almost like, even though she doesn't speak that much, it's almost like Oliver Stone appropriately wrote that, like, she chooses not to speak, right? It feels like
mm.
in her scenes, not like she's being silenced, because she's such an amazing actor. So she works the frame even though she has no dialogue. And I feel like that makes it feel like when she opens her mouth to speak, it's pointed. It was for a
But she
reason.
even yeah, and even when she's not though, like her just like I think Pacino does this like really well too, that like even when they're not speaking, their face and their
Yes.
eyes are
Yes.
like saying so much. And she even has it like harder because she's wearing shades a lot of the time. So you
Yeah.
really don't
So it's
get
in
those
her
eyes.
whole
So but like you see it in like I'm thinking of when Tony like has that vulnerable moment with her, telling her like he wants to marry her and everything like that,
yep.
and she's kind of just like taking it in, and then he's like, "I just want you to think about it," and then walks away, and then you just see it on her face, like she is thinking about it.
Right.
It's like she is like she's like, like she is. thinking about it. And so and yeah, just like all those times when she's just getting bored, and you could just see that she's just like, I'm just here because these guys are supplying my lifestyle. Like, I really
Yeah.
don't need to be here, but like, and so, but the way that she's just like, Frank, if someone wanted to assassinate you, you'd be really easy to find.
Yeah. And
And
then
guess
it's
what? He
yes.
does get killed.
Well, but what's crazy is the person
Yeah,
who has an assassination attempt on them in that club is
it's
him,
Tony.
right? So it's
Yeah,
sort of like, in a way, he was trying to be Frank, and she pointed out that being Frank is kinda stupid because
yeah.
then, like she pointed out, it'd be easy to take him out, and I feel like in that moment too, when she's thinking about her future, she is in a place where I don't think she knows what she wants, but she's only seeking excitement, right? Like her drug of choice is cocaine, and she's always complaining about being bored. So
Bored,
there's something about
bored.
how
Yeah.
even if she hates Tony, maybe he would have a more exciting life for her. And if not, he'd have a lot of drugs. So she could really do whatever she wanted.
I think like we can kind of let's dig into this. What do you
Okay.
think happens to her post Scarface? Because we don't she leaves him,
Yeah.
and that's it.
I
We don't get her
think
again.
she goes back to Baltimore, and no one knows what she did in Florida because she's probably from, like, a wealthy family. Something tells
Yeah.
me that she, like, is from wealth, which is why she is willing to put up with the
Kinda
weirdest
has that
shit to
spoiled,
be
yeah.
wealthy. Yeah. Like, she has a spoiled way about her, and also just, like, will make a lot of allowances to enjoy wealth. And so I imagine she goes home and apologizes to her dad for running off for a little while there, and probably gets like a basic boring ass job, and no one knows that she had that like cocaine frill for a while down there.
That's kinda what I was leaning towards too, that
She's a white
if
girl after
if
all,
if
you know?
not if not moving back right away, like, if she stays in Miami, it's, like, not gonna be long before, like, she completely burns out and runs out of money,
Yes.
and then
And she's not gonna be
we'll
like
have
a
to
sex worker or
we'll
something. She's out of here.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, then she'll go back home and be like, "Alright, I gotta get my shit together and, like, have a family or something," and, like,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah.
Marry some
Oh,
like really vanilla ass dude and just
yeah.
like stay safe. Yeah,
Yeah,
I always
I think
wish that
that's where
we
her
did
life is too.
know kind of what happened to her, that there was, like,
I
one of
know.
those moments where there was like, you know how you see the paper come down and it shows how Tony got out of jail, like, for the some of the charges towards the end? I was hoping for
Yeah.
something like that, she's, like, sitting
You know what's
somewhere.
sad though? Well, I used to think that was a flaw of the movie that she's not in it, but, like, again, rewatching it this time, it just made me feel that much, like,
Yeah, I miss her too.
empathy for Tony, because, like, every single scene he's in after that, he's like, "Did Elvira call? Did Elvira call?"
Yeah.
He's always asking about her. I'm like, "Oh god, this guy, like, he does really love her, even though he's just a piece of shit." Like,
Yeah, he's
he
barely capable of love at
he
all.
doesn't know how to show it, but he loves the idea of her, like, and
Yes.
that's the thing I think in Wolf of Wall Street too, that,
He loves possessing her for reals.
I was thinking about that too, and whenever I watch Wolf of Wall Street, because like there's basically you see that like he could have had a good life with his
His
wife
first wife.
in
Mhm.
that movie. Like she's pretty,
Yep.
they have decent jobs,
Yep.
they could have had a decent life, but he has to have Margot Robbie, and he has to have the prettiest.
He's someone else's girlfriend when
Yeah,
he meets her too.
yeah, exactly. He has to have someone else's, like, yeah.
Pinnacle,
It's
right. The
all just, like,
pinnacle is
taking someone else's shit, and, Tony does make some good points, I will say, like, in that, restaurant scene, like, about, "I'm the bad guy, you need people like me,"
mhm.
so you can point your fingers.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that
exactly.
scene.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah,
never
and
be
he's
able to overcome, the prejudices that he believes people hold about him because he feeds them, unfortunately, inadvertently getting real drunk at the restaurant does not sow the goodwill
that's
that
not high
Tony
class.
would
That's
like.
not,
Yeah,
yeah. That's not upper
unfortunately.
class how they I love how too, like, this time I noticed, I forget, what's the Ernie? Is that his name? The other guy,
The bodyguard guy, like the right-hand
yeah.
man dude? I
He
think
like
so.
he like he like slips, one of the guys at the restaurant like 100 on the way out, like, "Sorry, bro, sorry."
Yeah, 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 and when they're first starting to fight, he's kinda standing around, like, he's sorta looking around like, it's cool, everybody." He, like, already gets
Yeah.
started to be just to be cool with Tony doing whatever he's doing, And there's something always interesting to me about those guys, like the guys who are the right-hand man,
His
the
sidekicks.
right-hand men to these
Yeah.
guys, because that was Frank's right-hand guy. And when when he killed Frank, he was sort of like, "Hey, you want a job?"
You need a job? Yeah. I do love that scene though, because you see him like physically like sweating, like, am
Yes,
I gonna I mean, he just killed
a cop.
Mel, the cop,
Yeah, he don't give a shit.
and Frank,
Yep.
which I love that scene too, Manny, "Truth this pizza shit." The way he says it, "Truth this
Yeah,
pizza."
exactly. He's Haza, man. He's Haza.
He's like, "I'm not gonna kill you." Frank's like, "Oh, thank." He's like, literally on the floor begging, like at his knees,
Which is
like,
wild to go
yeah,
from, being the person who
his
welcomed
boss,
him in, yes,
yeah.
to begging him for his life is a crazy transition, and, yeah,
The
I
way
guess
that
that
Tony sets it up though too, where he's like, "Call at 3 a.m. sharp," like, that was such a smooth, like,
way
and
to corner him to
yeah.
determine, what he had done,
You
and
gonna
whether or not
answer
he was
that,
gonna tell
Frank?
the
You
truth.
gonna answer that?
Mhm. Oh, yeah, it's
God,
probably
Tony
just a
is he we I will say that, like, this is not how you should act, but Tony was, for a while there, pretty good criminal, gotta say. You gotta give it up to him.
he really was
Pretty
smart.
he was pretty great. Like, even like, the first drug deal, even though his homeboy got killed, you see these, like, little things, "Can you leave the door open?"
Yep.
So
Yeah,
my guys
smart.
can see, and,
Yep.
like, when, Hector's kinda, like, fucking with him, like, "It's not here, it's close by," and then and
Yep.
then Tony's like, "I don't have it either,
Yeah.
it's somewhere around.
He
Should I leave and come back? We do this whole thing over."
Yep, yep, what's going
Tony
on?
is God, he is hilarious. I fucking love how he plays him. He's just like so even like the weird again, you see this movie 1,000 times, like, he's obsessed with animals, like,
Yeah,
for no
wanting
reason.
the
Like, he
tiger. Yep.
wants a tiger. He's watching on like National Geo on in the tub, pelican, fly, pelican.
It's true, he is an animal, right? Like, he, I think, aligns with animals, he wants to be free like
Probably
those
relates.
birds,
Yeah,
but he
probably
is
relates.
dangerous like the tiger at the same time, and yeah, his ability to go from being so unafraid, because like even in that scene when his friend is being murdered right in front of him, he's still not like he still
Yeah,
won't let
doesn't care.
fear make him do anything in this scene. And by the end,
Why don't
because
you
he's so
stick your head
hopped
up your
up,
ass, see
yeah,
if it
yeah,
fits?
let's see if you can fit it. Like, and then to have cocaine by the end of this movie make him so afraid of almost everything that he,
Yeah.
he puts everybody out of his life at that point
Yeah,
is just
he's
such a
he's
bummer.
definitely scared at the end. Like,
Yeah, they're like, "You're spending
he's
12%
paranoid.
of our income on security. You're watching these
Yeah,
tapes." Like, the paranoia isolates him, and he was in a space where
yeah.
he wanted the door left open because he was appropriately afraid. He was appropriately aware of danger.
I felt bad for Manny because it seemed like he was like, that's the ideal way of enjoying your gangster lifestyle. Like,
He did it
he's in
right.
he's in bed with the naked lady, like, at all
Yes,
times, like, it's like
exactly.
where at once he was, a struggling up and comer,
Groper.
now
Yeah, just a struggling groper. He now
Roper,
has these ladies. They now go for it and
now he
totally
can
consent.
afford that lifestyle.
Exactly. He is now able to purchase their consent, which is really fun. But it's exactly right. Is like Manny is able somehow to stay friends with him too, because I do feel like I always forget that he's not mad at Manny at the top. That he's not like, hey, you were like with
No,
all these
yeah.
girls and you missed it and so's dead. Like he there's something about how like Manny is able to not be perfect across the movie, but of course, when it comes to his sister, like it's a
Honestly, kind
non-starter.
of Tony's fault for making Manny head of security because even if Manny was my bestie, I'm like, "Bro, you're
You're gonna be
way too."
flirting. You're
Yeah.
gonna be flirting, and
I
we're
mean,
gonna miss it.
even the first time when Tony was in the bathtub, what was he doing?
He
He
was
was talking up.
flirting, straight groping at the same
That's
time.
not that's not head of security material. I'm
No,
sorry. Ernie probably would have been better for that job
seriously,
than
yes.
Manny.
Yeah, and then when he like comes in shooting, he's like all over the place. He still gets shot. Like Manny is
uh,
he did him a solid by bringing Manny along. But they do have such good chemistry, and everybody in this movie is just like so good. Everyone is good at being appropriately amplified, but also grounded. Um, Gotta give it up to the master, right? Working with all those actors and try creating something so beautiful too, like, the sets, every time I return, I'm like,
Oh, I lo
"God,
this is
this is
such a great
amazing."
Miami movie, like, and,
Oh,
especially, like, on high definition now,
epic.
you get all those, like, beautiful neon colors and tropical settings, like,
Mm.
that's why I think, like, this is one of my favorite De Palmas, honestly, because it's just, like, it feels like he has such a larger budget and scale to work with,
Yeah, he truly
like,
does.
along with, like, the actors, like you said, um and, like, as much as I want to blame the, like, weird, like, sister stuff at the end, like, on De Palma, he didn't write the script,
No.
and I don't know, whenever I think of this movie, I think of, like, kind of Greek tragedies, like, or,
Yeah,
you know,
she's kind of
Hercu
like an Ophelia or
Herculean,
something.
yes. Like, so in my head, it just, like, kind of makes sense in a way that, like, that was his downfall, was him trying to control his sister to that extent
Bully.
that, like, she broke he broke her,
Mhm, and that
in
broke
that
him.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that broke him, and yeah, oof.
it's
It's
interesting. I
it is wild stuff. It is I mean, yeah, though, when she's coming at him with the gun, like,
so
you
good.
know, looking
"Ah, ah."
so hot in that nightgown, and it's
Yeah,
like,
like, "What's up?"
you know, as a teen, I'm like, I have mixed feelings about this part. Like, I don't know if I should feel,
I kind
you
of
know
I kind of appreciate when dynamics like that are explored because there is something
Yeah.
about the possessiveness where you need to almost throw you need you she almost has to
De
throw
Palma
this
loves
in
that
his
stuff
face for
too.
him to understand how possessive he actually is. You know, like, for her to be like, "Don't you understand that if I can't ever have sex with anyone, it means you wanna have sex with me? Like, don't you get
Yeah.
that?" And him,
De
I
Palma
think, coming to
loves
terms. Yeah.
De Palma loves, like, pointing the finger back at you, like, and being like, "I'm not the pervert, you're the pervert for watching this," and,
Yeah.
like, I don't wanna, like, give away Body Double, but, like, that's, like, a huge, like,
Yes.
thing where it's like, as you're looking at this naked lady or whatever, like, it's like you're not looking at, like, something else happening,
That
you know
you
what I mean?
should
So
be
it's like
looking at.
you're drawn to the sexuality and not the story, like, so he loves doing that. He just
Yes.
loves doing that, being like, "You're the pervert, not me. I'm just filming it, and you're the one buying it on Blu-ray," and it's like, "Fuck, I
Yes.
am,
Yes.
sorry."
It is me. It is
I
me
am a
after all.
sicko, I am a sicko.
Or I'm just, like, human, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
in the end of the movie, that scene is taking place because of the psychological trauma of everything. He isn't
Mhm.
truly attracted to her, and she is not truly attracted to him. It's just helping you understand that, like, the weird obsessive possessiveness
I
is
think Manny
starving
nailed
for
it.
sexuality.
Manny nailed it when he was talking to her, like, you're the only thing he thinks of as pure. You're his little
Yeah.
sister,
Yep.
and so I'm with you. I don't think it's, he is not like because, like, when she's doing that, he's not like, "Oh yeah, come here." He's like, "What are you doing?"
He's
Like,
like, "Hey, cut it out."
"Hey, yeah, you're my little sister, bro." I
Exactly.
also forgot, again, watching this a million times, that, like, in the club scene and at the end, she is wearing the necklace that Tony gave her, the heart-shaped,
Always.
pendant,
Yep,
so
always.
so good.
Exactly, she loves him so much too, that's part of what's so sad
Yeah.
about their relationship is they love each other so much
Yeah, that
in
that
an
first reunion
honest
is really
way.
sweet. I really do
Yeah.
like that, even though his mom is, like, just, couldn't be more,
Yeah, pissed.
standoffish and, like, pissed at him, like, the way that his sister, like, embraces him and, like, is just, like,
Yeah.
all like,
Wants
hugging
to
him,
accept
being
him.
and
It's
just,
true. Yeah, there's a lot
yeah.
in this movie, it's such a good one for us
Layers,
to.
layers.
Yes, layers upon layers. It's such a good way to round out this year of so many amazing movies. Like, this year had so many anniversaries of awesome movies. We couldn't even keep up with
Fit
them.
them
There was
all in.
no way to cover all of the amazing movies that came out, like, that had anniversaries on this year. So I'm excited to see what's going on in 24 and what other movies we can be reminded of. And I gotta see Body Double. I'm like so hungry for more De Palma. I
I'll
gotta
send you
go
the
get
link. I
some.
just I just after I watched it, I ordered it off Amazon, the Blu-ray. I'll send you the link. If
Please.
it is good. You should see it.
Please, I gotta
Um,
see it.
because again, that's another one that's, like, so melodramatic, De Palma to his own
Let's
devices, but,
go.
like, Also, I like that, you know, like,
I'm in
also,
the mood. Yeah.
it's still pretty good,
Just great filmmaking, so nice, and we have modern filmmakers that can do this stuff too. It's just really great to return and remember that, like, this is a kind of art form that every generation finds a way to capture in a really cinematic way, and I just love that, like, the gangster film is always looking to be reimagined, is always such a ripe place to go and tell an amazing story, and I can't believe Scarface is so good, and they better never fucking try to remake it. I think it'll hold up
There were
forever, frankly.
there were talks about it for a long time, but, the last update I got
I
from it
can't
was
do
that,
it.
Luca Guadagnino was supposed to direct it, which I kind of was like,
No,
"Okay, I can."
it's a hard no for me.
Hey, he directed the Suspiria remake, and I love the Suspiria
Yeah, the
remake. That's
Suspiria remake is good, but I
so and it's
feel
different. So I'm like, if he did Scarface, I feel like at least he would try and go a different like, I
alright,
feel
yeah,
like
if it's
the reason I
completely
don't
different,
want
I'll go.
yeah, the reason I don't want a remake is because Hollywood doing remakes right now is so lame and boring, and,
Exactly,
like, they just do the
exactly.
exact same shit with different people, and I'm like, that if that's the case, you're not gonna be able to do Diploma.
We
You're
need
just
as
not.
much of a shift as we
Yeah.
had from the original if we're ever gonna tell this kinda story again, and
I wanna say Leo DiCaprio was attached at one point too to be in the Scarface remake, but I think that's not,
get outta
the
here.
case anymore either, yeah.
Get outta here. No, no, no.
I know.
Alright, well, anything else before we get outta here?
Um, Favorite stunt kill? Should we end it with that? Our
I
signature?
think
Did you have one?
my favorite stunt kill is F. Murray Abraham. Like, for
Yeah,
reals,
it's
hanging a stunt
so
guy
brutal.
is wild. Yeah, a
Yeah,
brutal kill, but just an
and
amazing
through the
stunt.
binoculars too, like, it's like again, that's De Palma-esque, you know, like,
Yeah,
looking through
Watcher.
something to
Mhm.
see something violent, see
Yeah,
murder.
yeah, like, sort of being made to zero in on that, forced to zero in on that, not just
Yeah.
viewers, but also the character too, and I love how he just tosses the, binoculars right back. He's like,
He also looks, like, horrific, like, it's like, they didn't just hang him, they, like,
they beat his
jumped
ass
him,
for it.
like yeah, they
Yeah,
beat his ass
they
first.
sure did, they sure did.
He was hurting all the way to his death, he was
Yes,
yeah,
and then when
he
his,
was in
like,
pain
shoe
the whole
just
time.
flies off, it's so good, it's so real, it's so real, such a good one. What about you?
Uh
Which one really sticks with you?
Stunt, I fucking every time it makes me laugh when Tony throws the guy off the balcony and shoots him in the pool
Yes.
because it's clearly a dummy, like, it's not moving, it's just like this the whole
It's so good, though. The
time.
performance,
It's
he
such
brings the dummy to life.
yeah, but then yeah, it's just the way Pacino sells that anger, like, "Ah!" Like, just he unloads a whole clip in this guy's back.
So good.
It's hilarious. And
He
then, Kill, I think Tony, taking out Frank probably, and Mel in the same scene. I mean,
yeah,
it's just epic. I guess Manny took out Frank, but then
but still, it's such a good
he take
order for the kill. And
yeah.
yeah, obviously, like, the final climax when he's like, "I'll take all your bullets," and then
I
he's like,
know, yeah,
"Oh."
we gotta mention that too, you know, just,
So good. I
fucking
mean,
with me,
the,
you
like
fucking with the best, say hello to my little friend,
all the good
I take
ones.
all your bullets, it's like all those lines, it's oh
And the, like,
god.
shot of when he finally like, the fatal blow from the shotgun is sort of like a weird flash, like, freeze frame for a minute. I actually love it. It's sort of like that's the moment that he realized it was over, right? Like, he's taken
And
all
it's,
the
like, right
bullets
in
and
front of the
thinking,
"World is yours" statue, it's, like, so perfect, it's,
"It's
like, and
perfect."
falls to his death,
Yes. My
and
boy.
it's I did wanna mention the video game too that came out, I just love that, like, there was a
I
video that came out in the 2000s of it, and
amazing.
it literally just takes place, like, what if he survived? They, like,
That's amazing.
they just threw all and I kinda love it for that. It's just like,
That's so
you know
good.
what? It's a video game, you know, what if he survived? He just did so much coke, you know,
That's true.
well,
He did
why
do a
not?
whole lot of coke before. That's amazing. I'd have to try to find that and play that one day.
I think it's only on, like, PS2 still, I don't think they ever got a update, but
Let's get
I did like playing it, I did like that game back in the day.
well, if we can get our hands on an old PlayStation, I'm gonna try to play that shit. God, this movie's so good, so prevalent, so grateful we
Yeah.
did it. Awesome. All right, I think that wraps it up for us. Let's remind the people where they can find us.
Get your fix and follow the show at We Stay Buff on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. following me personally at misfit_minded on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, on Twitter at rampage_misfit, and my website at misfitminded.com.
Take us for a ride and subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify podcasts. And please leave a review. 5 stars would just make it'd be a Christmas wish come true. So throw us one of
Yep.
those. And you can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at It's Me, Shani B. Thanks again for listening. Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2024. Stay ball.